Donald is known for making big promises that he can't or has no intention of fulfilling. And he's consistently, in the last 10 months, been failing to deliver on some of his biggest pledges, including those regarding healthcare. Since tweeting attacks on the Affordable Care Act 435 times in 2017, Donald repeatedly promised to abolish it and replace it with a better, cheaper alternative known as Trump Care. But of course, it isn't known as Trump Care because it's entirely fictional. It has never proceeded beyond being anything other than a concept of a plan. This year, Donald promised to release a Thanksgiving week plan to curb rising healthcare costs created entirely by him and his party. Right before discussing that plan, however, a CNN reporter got live breaking news to the contrary. Watch this.
Zach Cooper is joining us now. He's a professor of health policy at Yale University. Zach, thanks for being here. As I noted, we are very much still waiting for specifics here. I'm sorry, this has actually been, sorry, Zach, we're getting breaking news while I'm talking to you. I have learned that the White House has postponed its expected unveiling of this new health care proposal. It was expected to be unveiled today. We'll learn more, hopefully, about that in the coming moments. But again, this is postponed, but we can talk about the ideas here.
Can we discuss the concepts of the plan? I mean, for God's sakes, we've been waiting for 8 years for Donald and his crack team of professionals to improve an already quite functional healthcare system, which was created during the Obama administration. And yet, crickets. So you'll remember that despite the complaints about the Affordable Care Act and the false promises to come up with something better, the entire reason the government shut down, or I should say the Republicans shut down the government, was because they refused to negotiate with Democrats on the budget bill. And the biggest obstacle to negotiations was that the Democrats insisted that Affordable Care Act subsidies that had been put in place during COVID be extended. Republicans refused. Therefore, the government shut down. And that is not an issue that has ever been resolved. The government opened back up without the Republicans agreeing to extend Affordable Care Act subsidies. Why does that matter? Well, without the extension, healthcare for millions of Americans will become much more expensive and in many cases unaffordable, which means that millions of Americans will lose their healthcare entirely. Now, whole reason for the government shutdown, you could consider it a win for Republicans, even if it's a loss for tens of millions of Americans. But now Donald, understanding on some reptile brain level that this is bad optically, is considering caving and agreeing to extending the ACA subsidies. Is this clear? Is this logical to all of you? No, of course it isn't. And then there's DOGE. Donald and Elon Musk promised that the so-called Department of Government Efficiency would slash billions of dollars in waste. Instead, it essentially raided the US Treasury, decimated the United States Civil Service, dismantled and defunded essential agencies like USAID, etc. And now, suddenly, quietly, DOGE no longer exists. Watch this update from the Today Show.
For all intents and purposes, DOGE is done. The Department of Government Efficiency as an actual entity within the federal government is no more. That's according to the government's top HR official, who confirmed over the weekend that 8 months ahead of the date it was supposed to wrap up under the executive order that created it, DOGE is over. The Elon Musk-led agency, you'll remember, axed tens of thousands of jobs from the federal government in the early months of this year, but it lost quite a bit of its mojo when Musk himself left the government in May. He said at the time that DOGE would continue as an office in the government and as kind of a governing philosophy, but now that office is closed.
Yeah, if by lost its mojo you mean lost its ability to destroy American agencies and the civil service, sure. Today, government agencies are posting jobs online. desperately scrambling to restaff positions cut by Musk and DOGE without any rationale whatsoever beyond saving money. Reuters reported in September over 150,000 government workers accepted buyouts, marking the single largest mass exodus of federal U.S. employees in almost 80 years. Over 70,000 federal workers retired this year. Again, this is destructive to institutional knowledge and the agencies that are designed to help the American people. Also, it just happens to have destroyed the careers of tens of thousands of dedicated civil servants. But before we go on, it is important that we continue to amplify Donald's failures, ineptitude, and lack of integrity. So please like and share this video. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Mary Trump Media channel. Many more promises have been broken in the realm of diplomacy and statecraft. Donald has always talked a big game about how influential he's been when it comes to American foreign policy, but he is not just flailing, he is outright failing on that front as well. The Trump regime presented Ukraine with a 28-point peace plan that reflected the Kremlin's demands. It may as well have been written by Vladimir Putin, and for all we know, it was. As the New York Times reported, the deal would require Ukraine to cede territory, downsize its military, and give up the future possibility of NATO membership. That last point there is one of the main reasons we're in this mess. In exchange for future NATO membership, Ukraine gave up its nuclear arsenal, leaving it vulnerable to attacks by Russia. Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine was made possible because the EU and America promised Ukraine that it could be part of NATO, and without its nuclear arsenal and without NATO membership, no entity involved in NATO is obligated to come to Ukraine's defense. So for Ukraine to give up the possibility of NATO membership at this point would be, quite frankly, obscene. Also, let's remember that Russia invaded Ukraine. Russia is our adversary. Ukraine is our ally. That's not the way any of this is supposed to work. Donald has demanded that Ukraine agree to the deal by Thanksgiving, despite the fact that the deal would be terrible for that country. And if they don't, he's threatening to cut off U.S. aid and intelligence sharing, which would be devastating to a country already under assault. Thankfully, Ukraine has refused the initial offer. The Times reports, quote, Donald, who is pushing Ukraine to agree to a settlement by Thanksgiving, but has indicated that talks could continue, said on Monday that, quote, something good just may be happening, unquote. Yes, it's just around the corner. I think it's 2 weeks out. Wait, is it 2 years out? I don't know, because we never get to the point where the deal has been reached or, increasingly, the promise kept. Please take a second and like and share this video. It'd be awesome if you could subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, please follow us and give the show a 5-star rating because it really does help other people find our content. Thanks.